So who actually gets to decide what a word means? Is it you, the person saying it, or is there something bigger at play? Well, we're going to dive into that.
All right, to get to the bottom of this whole thing, let's start with someone you probably know. You remember Humpty Dumpty from Through the Looking Glass, right? He makes this incredibly bold claim. He basically says he's the master of his own words. He tells Alice that when he uses the word glory, it means exactly what he wants it to mean. In this case, a nice knockdown argument for you.
Now Alice, she's not having any of it. She pushes back and says, whoa, hold on. Words have shared meanings, right? We all kind of agree on them? I mean, if we could all just make up meanings on the spot, how would we ever talk to each other? So right there, you've got this awesome conflict. Is meaning a personal thing, or is it a public agreement?
So who's got it right? Is it Humpty Dumpty, the individualist egg, or is it Alice, the voice of common sense? And you might think, who cares? But the answer, as we're about to see, is a really big deal. It changes how we think about, well, everything. Simple conversations, sure, but also law, politics, even art.
Okay, so to figure this out, we've got to leave Wonderland behind for a minute and come back to our own world. Because this isn't just some fantasy debate. This is about the language we all live inside of every single day. See, the big idea here is that language isn't just this neutral tool we use to label things. It's not like a hammer. It's more like the house we live in. It actively shapes our thoughts, our relationships, even what we feel. It's the system we actually think inside of. And once you start looking, you see this stuff everywhere. I mean, try talking about economics without using words like inflation or capital. You can't, right? The words define the field. Or think about social values. The difference between calling a system a democracy versus a dictatorship is massive. It's not just a label, and it even affects how we see things. Calling a small house quaint feels cozy, but calling it pokey feels cramped. See? The language literally frames our reality. Okay, so if language is this super powerful system, how does it actually work? How does it make meaning? Well, our first big clue comes from a thinker who totally flipped linguistics on its head. Meet Ferdinand de Saussure. This Swiss linguist absolutely changed the game. His big argument was that for pretty much all of history, we've been thinking about meaning in the completely wrong way. He said the meaning of a word doesn't come from pointing at a thing out there in the world. Instead, Saussure said meaning is all about difference. A word has meaning not because it points to, say, a real dog, but because it's not a cat, it's not a table, it's not a car. It's the network of differences inside the language system itself that creates meaning. This can feel a little abstract, so let's make it super concrete. Take the word modern. What does modern actually mean? If you think about it, it doesn't really point to one specific thing, does it?
Exactly. Modern in history just means, well, not medieval. Modern languages are simply not ancient ones. Modern furniture is the stuff that isn't antique. The meaning of modern is created entirely by what it's not. It's defined by the contrast. Pretty cool, right?
Okay, so if meaning is all about this system of differences, then we need to know what the basic building block of that system is. For Saussure, that building block was something he called the sign. And he said every sign has two parts. First, you've got the signifier. That's just the word itself, the sound dog, or the letters D-O-G on a page. And second, you have the signified. That's the concept in your head, that mental picture of a furry, tail-wagging canine. Now, this is the really mind-bending part. The link between those two things, the word and the concept, is completely and totally arbitrary. There's nothing naturally dog-like about the sound dog. It's just a noise we've all agreed on. I mean, if there was a natural link, then everyone would use the same word. But in French it's chien, in Spanish it's perro. The connection is just a convention.
And this is where it gets fun. The surrealist painter René Magritte absolutely loved this idea and played with it all the time. Take a look at this painting. At first glance, it kind of looks like a page from a kid's picture book, right? But yeah, look closer. Something is definitely off.
What Magritte is doing here is asking us a question. He's saying, hey, what happens if I just break that social agreement? What happens if I disconnect the picture from the word you expect to see with it? And the result is this beautiful, wonderful chaos. He labels a picture of a horse the door. A clock becomes the wind. A jug is now the bird. He's showing us, in the clearest way possible, that the connection we assume is real and natural is just an agreement. It's not some law of physics.
Okay, let's pause and connect the dots. If meaning is made by this big public system that we're all just born into, what does that mean for the individual, for you, for me, for an author writing a book? Well, this line of thinking leads to a really provocative idea, and this is where we get into what's called post-structuralism.
And the guy who really ran with this is Roland Barthes. He took all these ideas from Saussure about language and applied them to literature. And what came out of it was one of the most famous and controversial essays of the last century.
He summed up his entire argument in one killer phrase: the birth of the reader must be at the cost of the death of the author. Wow. I mean, it sounds super dramatic, right? But when you break it down, the logic is actually pretty simple.
Just think about it. If a writer is using a language system that's been around for centuries, a system they didn't create, how can what they personally intended to say be the one and only final meaning? It can't. The text isn't a message in a bottle from the author. It's more like a web of words and meanings that are already out there in the culture. And that means the reader gets to play a huge role in creating the meaning too.
But, okay, why should we care about this if we're not in a literature class? Well, because this whole way of thinking isn't just about books. It's a powerful tool, a new lens you can use to look at and reinterpret your entire world.
Seriously, this lens works on everything. You can use it to analyze some super highbrow poem, looking at the web of meanings in the words without caring one bit about what the poet was trying to say. But you can use the exact same tool on a simple ad slogan. Remember when Guinness used to say it was good for you? What did that mean? Was it a health claim? Or did all the ads with happy people suggest it was good for your social life, for your soul? The point is, the meaning isn't fixed. It's up for grabs.
And that brings us right back to where we started, back to Wonderland. So, after all that, who was right? Humpty Dumpty, the guy who thought meaning was all personal, or Alice, who thought it was all about public rules?
Well, the answer we've been building towards is kind of both, and kind of neither. They were both a little bit right and a little bit wrong. Humpty was wrong because no, you can't have a totally private language. But Alice was also wrong to think that meaning is just set in stone forever. The truth is somewhere in the middle. Language is a public system, for sure, but it's a living one. We can all push on it, challenge it, and change it over time. Meaning isn't a thing, it's a negotiation.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought. If the meaning of our words isn't fixed, what are the common sense ideas in our world today? What are the things we just accept as true? And which one of them is just waiting for a new interpretation to come along and change everything?